Saintis kita perlu ambil bahagian dalam konferensi di luar negara yang menggunakan bahasa Inggeris, dan mereka yang belajar dalam bahasa kebangsaan mungkin tidak akan faham perbincangan-perbincangan yang berlaku dalam konferensi antarabangsa. It is important that they learn science and math in English, because every day we are coming up with new words coined in English. For example, artificial intelligence. In bahasa Malaysia is what?
Kecerdasan buatan.
Huh?
Kecerdasan buatan.
I can't.
Kecerdasan buatan.
Kecerdasan buatan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sabrun Jamil bin Muhammad Azhar. Today I'm here to give you a special report on a topic that has gained popularity in recent times. The topic that I'm referring to is about the patronization of the Malay language. So let's get right into the story. On the 6th of February 2020, this year, there was a press conference done by a popular politician who I will not name because I am terrified of what they could do to me if I were to name the individual. So in this press conference, he said that all the new words, all the new phrases, all the new terms in science is all coined in English. He gave the example of artificial intelligence, and he asked the reporters, the journalists around the room, what it meant if it were to be translated into the Malay language. So this part of the press conference gave mixed opinions to the general public because, as we all know, there's an ongoing issue about how the Malay language is being treated in this country, the country of its origin, Malaysia. So this topic is usually brought up in social media, especially in social media, where with there being examples of people getting bashed about using Malay language as their main language, or as their language on their phones or on their applications. So there are also individuals who have defended Bahasa Malaysia, the Malay language, for being the top priority, the top language in Malaysia. So as we can see, there are mixed opinions about this. There are mixed opinions on this topic. So the big question is Malay language still important or still relevant in today's time? So let's get into one example. The example that I'm going to give is about the position of the Malay language in the science field, because there's a current issue about what language should mathematics and science be taught in high schools. So in science, English is mainly used throughout researchers, throughout reference books. With that being said, it becomes difficult for Malaysian researchers to write their ideas in Malay because they have been influenced by these references written in English. So it's easier to write their ideas in English rather than translating them into Malay. Another factor is about reference books in Malay, because of most researchers being written in English, these new ideas or new researches aren't being translated into Malay yet. So with that being said, Malay research books are sometimes not up to date and just not up to the researchers' standards. This is because most researchers and reference books that are up to date with what's happening today are written in English. So researchers tend to pick the English ones rather than the Malay ones, as they are more informative than the Malay ones. Yes. Finally, the final factor that contributes to this example is the fact that when researchers look at the glossary, they tend to find the English ones first rather than the Malay ones. So they tend to pick the ones on top rather than the ones at the bottom, because researchers need to read a lot. So it's understandable why they would read the ones at the top rather than going through every reference or research written in the glossary. So it's understandable why they wouldn't read through everything and just read what they want to find. So that's why when they go through the ones at the top and they find what they want, they pick those. And because of the glossary being arranged English first, that's why they tend to pick the English ones. So to continue the report, let us head over to Ahmad Shahmi with the following example.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ahmad Shahmi and I am reporting for the issue of PPSMI. On February 2020, our former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir, who is also former acting Education Minister, announced to re-implement PPSMI into Malaysia education system. Going back to the history, PPSMI, pengajaran dan pembelajaran sains dan matematik dalam bahasa Inggeris, or the policy of teaching science and mathematics in English, was first implemented in 2003 by Tun Dr. Mahathir. Since then, PPSMI became the subject of the hot debate, especially among the academics, politicians and the public. This actually led to the policy's abolishment in 2012 by then Deputy Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, as it didn't render to any good outcome as it should be. When proposing this policy, Tun Dr. Mahathir was in hope that this policy give a competitive edge to the nation, following the footsteps of Singapore and India, which are moving forward because of their utilization of the English language. Tun Dr. Mahathir affirmed that PPSMI is reintroduced again to encourage the mastery of scientific field among students in school. In order to be successful in this field, students must have a good command of English language. Tun Dr. Mahathir also claimed that it is important that they learn mathematics and science in English because every day we are coming up with the new word coined in English. And this was to ensure all Malaysians will be able to speak on science and mathematics in English at the international level. He hoped other vernacular schools will adopt this because otherwise they were unable to converse with international scientists who are fluent in English. Our scientists have to take part in international conference, and if they learn the subject in Bahasa Melayu, it will be difficult for them to participate in international conference, said Tun. Many academics, language activists and community activists have disagreed that PPSMI should be continued, as it is proven not to improve student English proficiency. Instead, they say that the policy, which have been implemented previously in 2003 to 2012, proved to fail, causing the quality of student achievement in English, mathematics and science to decline. This is clear when the UPSR 2008 achievement data has spread on 170,000 students who fail both science and mathematics subjects. The crisis of basic knowledge deficit experienced by students continue up to the upper secondary level when the entry of students into field of science is declining consistently to this day. The generation of PPSMI who venture into science decreased from 29.35% in 2012, decreased to 28.90% in 2013, and decreased again to 28.69 in 2014, and continued to decline to 23.15 and 23.19 in 2016 and 2017 respectively. In addition, overall, only 21% of secondary school nationwide achieve a 60.40% policy ratio, which at this point make it more difficult for the country to become a scientific society. To make matters worse, after finishing high school in Form 5, only 40% of the number of STEM students continue their study at the tertiary level. Diploma or first degree in science and related field, including program in technology and vocational field. The report of the Malaysia Academy of Sciences show that only 20% graduated, and the achievement of science and mathematics literacy as well as reading literacy of Malaysian students through the TIMSS and PISA and international students also plummeted consistently starting 2003 cycle and 2012, which is when the PPSMI generation occupied it. Malay language expert Prof. Emeritus Datuk Dr. Nik Safia Karim said that in this regard, she said the plan to restore PPSMI should not be done in a hurry, as many experts from various fields have objected to its implementation. She added that the government should not repeat the policy that have been proven to fail. Meanwhile, the Deputy President of Malaysian Linguistic Association, Kamal Shukri Abdul Wahsani, said that many studies conducted by University and Dewan Bahasa and Pustaka (DBP) proved that the implementation PPSMI had previously failed. He added that the government has spent about 10 billion for the 8 year, but as a result, English proficiency remain weak. If implemented again, it will be in vain. He also added, when the PPSMI was implemented, the failure of students to master English caused the grade of subject science and mathematics to be lower due to number of students who achieved the minimum qualification dropped. Developed countries such as Japan, Finland, South Korea, Russia, and Spain are still successful, even though the education system uses a mother tongue language instead of English, he said. According to the survey by usnews.com, South Korea, Japan, China, and Russia are listed in the top 10 countries with the highest technology expertise. This shows that even those countries does not use English language as the medium in their education system, they still have the best technology in the world. Advisory Language Malay Consultative Council Prof. Datuk Dr. Awang Sariyan say the government should understand that the language of the national education system is Malay. He added that the government is responsible for strengthening the existing medium for instruction as the language of knowledge and should not pretend to say it as failure just to restore PPSMI. The national education system has produced many professors and professionals in the field of science, proof that Malay language has no weaknesses. In fact, there is no problem in international conference that mediate foreign language, as translation are done simultaneously. So, there is no need to compromise that Malay language is unsuitable for our system education, as it is only discriminate our Malay language. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. So we will proceed with our next reporter, which is Haziq Faruqi.
Our group had conducted a survey to find out the amount of people who views Malay as a lesser language in comparison to other languages, for example English. The survey is made up of 5 sections: demographics, general questions, attitude towards the Malay language, personal experiences, and patronizing attitudes. We've used a convenient sampling method with 23 sets of qualitative and quantitative questions. We gained 45 respondents. First off, we have the demographics section. Of the 45 respondents, 39 people or 87% falls in the 19 to 25 age group, and 60% of all respondents for this level of study being in degree. All respondents are Malaysian, everyone being of Malay ethnicity except for one, a Sabah Bumiputra. For the first and second language questions, we gave 5 options to choose from: Malay, Chinese, Tamil, English, and others. 40 out of 45 respondents use Malay as their first language, while the other 5 use English. As for their second language, 38 people said that their second language is English, and Malay being the other 7 respondents. Second, we asked the general questions regarding their language usage. Most of the respondents claim they only speak 2 to 3 languages. 4 people could speak 4 languages, and only 1 person could speak 5 languages or more. No respondents could only speak 1 language. Languages in the others category are Korean, Japanese, Hindi, and French. When asked about their preferred speaking language, respondents preferred to speak Malay rather than English by 3 times more, and 8 respondents preferring to speak both. Nearly all the respondents speak Malay language, and only 1 partially speak it. No respondents prefer to speak in any other language besides these 2. Thirdly, we move on to the attitudes towards the Malay language. We asked respondents their opinion on the Malay language and provided 5 responses to choose from. It is a good language, it is an okay language, and they prefer it. It is just an okay language. It is an okay language, but they do not prefer it, and it is a terrible language. 30 out of 45 respondents chose it is a good language, the highest option. No one chose the 5th option, it is a terrible language, yet 2 people said they do not prefer Malay. In relation to the PPSMI fiasco, we asked whether or not the Malay language can be used in many different fields. We gave them a multiple choice between yes, no, and maybe. Then, we included an open-ended question for them to write their reasoning. Supporting arguments that Malay can be used in different fields such as mathematics and science were that doing so can help Malaysians to better understand the subject. The Malay language already has translated terms to be used in the academic world, developed by universities and the Malaysian Language and Literature Institute, more commonly known as Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. Meanwhile, the naysaying minority argued that Malay is a difficult language in comparison to English. We counter this notion by saying that Malay language is grammatically and phonologically speaking far easier and consistent than English, so many immigrants come to Malaysia and are able to learn it in 1 month. That was the case of the waiter of my favorite restaurant in Jalan Ipoh. There are exceptions, of course, like those who despite their efforts could not learn the language. Yet, this is not applicable to those who personally prefer English to Malay, the quote-unquote global language. We further ask whether or not, in their opinion, Malay is suitable for refined or intellectual discourse, and not just colloquial speech. 34 respondents said that Malay is suited for intellectual discourse too, with 9 people on the fence about the idea. 2 respondents agreed that Malay is not suited for intellectual expression. Fourthly, we asked the respondents about their personal experiences. When asked about whether or not they have ever witnessed or encountered a situation where people downplayed the Malay language, 60% of the respondents said yes. These experiences included the elite Malays expressing their bias that Malay is a backwards and kampung language, parents refusing to teach their Malaysian kids Malay, and Malaysians ridiculing new terms that are introduced. 48.9% of respondents also reported that people have been told to speak other languages except Malay. Some of the reasons include fair ones, such as being in an English language setting, and to improve their English, but also condescending ones, such as Malay being not suitable for a formal setting, and English equated to being a genius language. That last notion will definitely fall apart when one uses their thinking skills, since common sense can tell that language does not equate to smart minds. However, it does equate to colonial thinking. Moving on, we ask whether or not respondents prefer to mix words from other languages while they are speaking Malay. 82.2% responded yes, caused in part by habit and environment, having little mastery in translating words, and using a lower register to appear more friendly and close to friends and acquaintances. Tying off this section, 24 respondents said that they would use Malay equivalent to English words if they ever find the translation, and 16 respondents replied maybe. And regretfully, 5 respondents said no, they would not do that. Our final section, titled Patronizing Attitude Towards the Malay Language, asked the respondents on what do they feel about people who patronize the Malay language, followed by their reasoning. However, many did not understand the question and assumed patronizing meant making something patriotic. But some respondents were adequately answering the question, and some said that they were angry at those people. Just because those people don't speak the Malay language, it does not give them the right to belittle the language. Every language in the world matters to each spoken community. A lot of people trying to be chic and all, I don't really know Malay, when their English is just as bad. I was one of those who thought lesser of the language, living overseas. I was not exposed to the usage and the beauty of the language. As I find Malay to be difficult, it affected my own perspective of the language. To sum up their responses, 16 people did not know what patronizing meant. 4 reacted remorsefully, 4 angrily, 7 were resentful, 2 were understanding, and 7 respondents did not give any answer. Now, this research, of course, has limitations and weaknesses. The population of our search is too small to be generalizable for a larger community. 45 respondents fall quite short from 200. In hindsight, we should probably use more common words, other than patronizing. This brought up non-related answers that we had to sift through. Conclusion. We can see that although the patronizing attitude amongst Malaysians toward the national language is the minority, it is still prevalent. Many respondents in our study would abandon their own language to curry favor with English, the marketable language. Malay has been degraded, being a backwards and low language, neither fit to be used for education nor academic expression in their eyes. When the new words pop up in English, they claim that Malay can't come up with words like it. And when those words are created, they push it away, licking the boots of our language colonizers. A language's survivability depends on its users. If Malaysia's own people abandon ship, then a dark future awaits it. Apa guna asam payah kalau tidak menggulai ikan? Apa guna emas kencana kalau basa tidak diraukan? Thank you.
Ibu